welcome to Game Soup. It's a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Chloe Montgomery and I'm joined as ever by Kayla Dice. How are you today, Duck?
I am doing okay. I'm still very tired. I think I've realized I'm trying to sort of upgrade my power mobility situation more urgently, as I think I'm just sort of a bit too persistently exceeding my physical
Yeah.
limits. Also, I think I'm actually doing in a sort of good mood today. I think I realized I've maybe been suffering from a quite severe loss of perspective.
Yes.
No surprise, no oh really?
Well, I think there's absolutely a part of you that wants to still be able to push as hard as you did 5 or 10 years ago. And like part of it is just age and part of it is, disability and whatever else. And it's just like, yeah, I think everyone's just kind of pushing themselves harder than they should for where they are in their lives. I mean, God, the rise of global fascism, for one. Uh,
No, I get what you mean there. To some extent, yeah, that's probably still true. It's hard to sort of identify your own limits. I meant more in the sense of I think about my own work. I've been
oh,
suffering a big loss of perspective.
Womp.
I think I've been very antsy about sales and how things go when I'm at cons. And then I read a lot of people's reflections on cons recently, and I was just like, I'm doing fine. I'm doing so comparatively fine to all of the people I know. I think I'm really I've been in a lot in my own head this year about whether I'm not having as many ideas or whether I'm not able to get as many ideas
Yeah.
finished as I used to. And then I decided to look at the file I have in my Google Drive, which is in my work in progress, is then all of the ideas I just iced unfinished over the years. And I'm like, there's loads of them. And there's always been loads of them from the very first year I started writing them. Nothing has actually changed. And I have often felt very bad about the value of my own work this year. But then if I'm intellectually thinking about it, I do think some of the collections I put up this year are the best things I've done. So it's I'm intellectually proud of my work. I'm just sort of fixating on it because probably of a fact of I'm overwhelmed in other reasons. Some of that is down to sort of persistently exceeding my physical capabilities, maybe. Another part of it is also I had a very busy year. I moved house. I been around a lot.
You went to foreign countries, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just easy to convince yourself that if you feel overwhelmed, it's well, what's rather than acknowledging I'm overwhelmed by things that are beyond my control, I'm what if there's actually something really wrong with the things I make? And I don't know, after maybe feeling a bit mopey about it, sometime I think I sort of just realized no, I think that's all. I think I'm full of shit when it comes to some of those self doubts. Know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, when was the last time I figured released something? But it's yeah, I still feel like I'm doing good stuff, but there's certainly times where I'm oh, I've not made a game in however long, 6 months or whatever the fuck. Blah, 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 blah. It's no, also I'm doing a weekly podcast and a full-time job and,
Yeah. And whereas I get frustrated at myself of oh, I'm feeling not able to do all of these things, or I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough. And I'm aware on some level a lot of that is just internalized ableism, but I'm projecting it onto dissatisfaction with my creative output because that feels like something I have more influence on, rather than just accepting that I'm frustrated with the limitations of my own body.
Yeah.
How are you doing this week?
I had 2 opening shifts for Zootropolis this weekend, so I was opening the cinema up at 6 a.m. No, what was it? I was opening at 7 a.m. I was having to get up at 5 a.m. On Saturday and Sunday. So if you go to the cinema, it's possible I hate you. Um, but you know,
Love you're like I love films. Hate cinema goers though.
yeah, I love the cinema. I
Get
love
rid of
working
it.
there. What's that line from Clerks? This job would be perfect if it weren't for the fucking customers. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's such a weird thing. I realize I'm surprised because the cinema's opening at 6 a.m. You're saying
well, no, we staff get in at 7. We have an hour to set up. The first showing was at 8 a.m. This is like the
that is
earliest. This is the earliest we've been opening. To be honest, like it's normally like when it's not busy, like 9 a.m. opens. Or well, yeah, 9 a.m. opens, or like in the middle of like dead months, it's like 12 a.m. opens. So I don't understand it. Like people were coming in, it's like, God, you guys are open early, and I'm like, yeah, and you still turned up, so we will continue to open up early.
I am. This does surprise. I guess it's. I'm also aware. We ever named the chain you work for?
No,
We don't
it's a
have to.
cinema.
Um, but you work for a cinema chain, whereas mostly, admittedly, all of the cinemas I've gone to very recently and for the last couple of years even aren't chains. And so I think just because of different demands of stuff, they all start their screenings much later. So I was almost
Yeah,
just weirded out. I was like, wait, a film in the morning? But I'm aware if I lived closer to if my nearest cinema was one of
a national chain. Yeah,
your franchises or the franchise of your closest competitor, that might be a different story.
yeah. I mean, it's like it's a pretty cheap cinema as well, so we get a lot of just like punters going in, like, oh, what have you got on today? We'll go whatever. And
Mhm.
like early morning stuff is all like kid stuff. So we had like a Paw Patrol Christmas and friggin' like Zootropolis early in the morning, and it's like the screens don't fill, but it's very good for like kids' first cinema trip. And like I get it, but also, uh,
Also, if any of our international listeners are incredibly confused, we're talking about the film Zootopia, which is renamed in the UK for reasons I don't know nor care about.
so the reason actually I'm going to tell you, even if you don't care, is that in Germany there is a zoo or a theme park, something like that, called Zootopia. And so when they were starting to market it over here, there was a big hoo-ha about you can't be Zootopia. We're already Zootopia. So that's why they changed it in Europe.
Also, it's fully Europe. I thought this was a UK only thing. I didn't
No,
realize
it's
it's
across
all
all
over
of Europe.
Europe.
And then I think there's some
Oh,
places where it's like Zoomania. That might be like Japan.
that's I mean, Zoomania is on one hand a great title, but also does not feel like it makes sense for the plot of these films.
No. Anyway, you were at Dragonmeet this weekend. How did that go?
Yeah, like I said, I felt very mopey at a lot of parts of Dragonmeet, but in actual fact, with the benefit of like we're recording this on Wednesday, I can say Dragonmeet went pretty well. I had a very nice time at the after drinks. I did have a nice time seeing a lot of people. I was very in my own head, and some of that is like I do think I have maybe done the last con I can do all it is just sensible to do while like just self-propelling with my own arms like I am
Yeah, we need to
I'm
get you an
pushing past the
electric.
limits of yeah, but like and I think that's creating or has created a thing at least partly where it's like physical exhaustion is going to make your sort of stress resilience just like so much
Yeah,
lower.
yeah.
um like I've been really in my own head sometimes about wondering that it's like being a wheelchair user is what's made my right resilience to stress less. But it's not. It's that I'm physically exhausted. My
Yeah,
resilience to stress would similarly be low if I was walking. It would then probably be even lower because there would also be, as well as the mix of fatigue, there would be massive amounts of pain,
yeah,
which I prevent with my current setup. But I am still very exhausted very quickly just by even getting around. And that's where something that can change, and I don't have, and so like that will be easy enough. Dragon Meat on the whole is pretty positive about. I we've talked before about like just like sometimes weird sales occurrences
Yeah.
where like, and I try and
One
caution to not
random
take,
5-year-old game suddenly becomes the belle of the ball or whatever the hell.
yeah, or somehow like something will suddenly not be doing popular at one place. This,
Yeah.
by the end of the day, Psycho Dungeon had sold well because
Oh
I was
well.
on a panel and it got shouted out by a guest, by another speaker on the panel who's very kind about the game. Which meant a few people who were there came and picked it up after that. But before that point, which was very close to the end of the day, that panel was around 4:30. Dragonmeet shut at 6, so all those sales were in the last half hour. Before that, I had only sold 2, and I was just really weirded out by it. I was almost like, this is the most bizarre collapse of a good seller I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And then there's even the fact that by the end of the day, I have to go like, okay, well, it balanced out because of like a bunch of sales in half an hour. But I was just like, it was a different turning point, and also
Yeah.
I was a bit in my own head at the con, but there's a
It's
lot of
it's the
positive
equivalent of
things.
like when you run or someone runs one of your games at a con, and then everyone who's on that table comes straight to your table to buy a copy or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I yeah, I think there's a lot I like about cons. A lot of the current issues I have, I do think are maybe just a case of having to accept,
Yeah.
physical limitations and
And to be
make
fair, you
changes
are
in
pretty
response
like
to.
physically active at conventions. Like you are like on front of your table, like beckoning like a friggin' fruit seller in a market.
I feel my selling game was a bit off this year, which I feel may have been like getting used to a new space, even. I don't know. Obviously, all cons, at least the
Yeah, it
first
was
time you
at
do them, but
the Excel Center, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, it was in one big hall of the Excel Center. Um, which was different. It's like some people were like, "Oh, I hear it's bigger, but it feels smaller because it's no longer across 2 halls."
Yeah.
But
Uh,
also, and maybe even just like a difference in setup, or even just being in my own head. I feel like often I'm asking people what they're into and recommending things off of them that. Whereas I noticed by the end of
Yeah.
the day, all I'd done was prompted people to look at display copies and then tell them about whatever game they pick up.
Yeah, that's what we
Which
usually do, to be fair.
I feel, yeah, but in a weird way, I don't know. I feel like I sometimes prefer when I've dragged people more into a conversation, but maybe I was gonna say maybe I still struggle with that post TTS, but I was pretty well at GaleCon. But Laurie at one point
Yeah.
was like, maybe you're just having TTS flashbacks because of looking like we're in an airport hangar.
Oh God. I mean, yeah. I mean, I missed Dragonmeet this year, but I suppose that was one of my main complaints about the previous location at the Hilton was that it was across the 2 floors and it never felt like the bottom floor was ever highlighted. Like it was only ever like the main front top floor, and then it felt like and there's all the other guys were just shoved in the basement.
I feel like the first time I went to Dragonmeet, there was this perception that like, oh yeah, the bottom floor is where cool indie people are, and then the top
And then
floor is where there's
upstairs is
more like
yeah.
corporations. But then I feel like the years I started tabling, that flipped. Like I never tabled at the bottom floor. By then, like there'd just been a lot more drift of like indie people to the top. I think also like in one of the last years they like tried to clear out more of the top floor to make more space on there. Um
Yeah, if it was more
but yeah.
demarcated where it was like the top floor is big industry stuff, you've got your Paisos, you've got your cubicle sevens, whatever. And then downstairs is these are the indies. You've never seen these guys in a shop. You will only get their books here. Like that would be like a push to go down there.
Yeah, and I feel like the one time I visited Dragonmeet as a punter, I remember that was the impression. But I think, as you know, the struggles of a space that was just a bit too small for the amount of people there, that kind of distinction maybe got blurry in later years. Um, but yeah, I was gonna say, did I? Oh, there was someone I met. Someone I ran into someone I'd sold Psycho Dungeon to at a previous convention, and I think a few other things of our table, whose parent had said like that we'd sort of inspired them to try sort of writing their own games. And I was like, that's good. I
That's
feel like
good.
I need to sort of focus more on those things rather than, I don't know, just being all over the shop based on some kind of,
Yeah.
based on what is ultimately just feeling exhausted and wanting to then focus that on something. You
It's
had
like,
a game pitch for me.
yeah, I'm going on
Or you
a.
were actually about to say something else, but
Well,
you also had a
I
game.
was gonna say, I'd prefer one person come up to me and saying this is my favorite game ever, or I've really been inspired by this game. We play it every week or whatever. To 10 people buying a book, like that one testimonial, as it were, feels a lot more good than
Mm.
sales. Yay! Like I don't know,
Have you ever
qualitative versus
watched?
quantitative.
Have you ever watched the sketch show Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun on Netflix?
No.
There's at least a sketch in it where it's like the sketch joke is just like some people hanging out in their living room, and then it's like a theater group comes up and is like, oh, we've booked the living room, and they're like, what? Why would we need to? Who rented out the living room? No, it's weird that the living room has to be booked. But then they're doing black box theater right next to these housemates who are just trying to have lunch. Which is but at the end, someone's goes, okay, so let's talk sales. Sales are not good. That runs through my head all of the time. Every convention I'm at, just the words, let's talk sales. Sales are not good. Even when sales are good. Must emphasize this. It's always there. Let's talk sales.
I mean, going to and from cons, we normally play that song that's like Cash Money Wonga. So maybe we have different. Yeah, I had a pitch for a game because I'm going on a work night out tonight, and I've spent so much time in town today finding handbags and makeup because I've not been on a night out in 5 years' time since before the lockdown. Really, my last quote unquote night out was going to a Carly Rae Jepsen concert a week before lockdown. Um, and a proper night out at like a club was even 2 or 3 years before that. So,
Yeah,
um,
you don't strike me as a big club in person.
oh, I was in university, but
Really?
yeah,
So that wasn't said with.
that was said with, what it was said with.
I don't know. No, genuinely, it's I think I just have an assumption that like you'd find clubbing overstimulating.
Oh, probably I will tonight. I'll report in next week that I'll be like, oh my god, it was horrible.
So I
But
didn't realize, is your work to going to a club?
no, our work do is going to mini golf, and then we will probably be going out afterwards and getting plastered. But
Right. Still more of a like going out than drinking in, which is, I
yeah,
guess,
it's
what
like
more of
I'm
your socializing has
normally
been.
yeah, normally nowadays it's house parties. We go to someone's house for Halloween or a barbecue for a birthday or whatever. But yeah, we're actually going out, and I'm going to go for drinks afterwards. So whatever. But my pitch for a game was the Infinite Dance Floor, but you are on a work night out.
Yeah, or the new version of the game Caught in the Remix also
Yeah,
works for that. I mean, actually, I think I will say for Caught in the Remix, when you are prepping your party, you're asked how you all know each other, and then there's a couple of like suggestions with follow-up questions. Like it can be you were like university friends, or childhood friends, and I think one of them is maybe like you are work friends. I think in that case it may be more still rooted around the idea of like you're friends through a job, but you're still friends. I think
yeah,
there is like interesting about changing that game, which very much focuses on like relationships being put under the microscope. Or I feel actually it's kind of a different way because I feel with a work night out, a thing I will admittedly say, I've maybe had about 3 actual work nights out in my life. I had like a Christmas do when I was 21, like which was just at one of the shops, but like the boss provided a bunch of free beer. But also, we all had to work the next day, or most of us. And I remember someone going like, "I think he does this as a social experiment, gets us all pissed, and then see who shows up." Because it's like I had to call in sick because I was so fucking hungover, and I'm on the phone being like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna make it in," and it's like no one. There is no way that can be anything other than, yeah, I know, Kayla, you were throwing up in the bin last night. We all saw. It's just like he was a sick fuck, man. But and then I also did summers. I was a teacher where I did not get anywhere near as smashed, which was more just going back to the pub. um, but also like the thing with Infinite Dance Floor and Caught in the Remix is there is this fact of like you cannot leave without your mates, which is it's both a fact of the game. I also think there's an interesting implication in the fact it's like the nightclub won't let you leave until you were all united. Like the exit doesn't appear until then. Whereas I feel like with Work Nights Out, even when they get very messy, it is more about choosing your exit point separate from everyone else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, I've had enough. I'm going home. It's 11 o'clock. People will continue to be out. Like, or I am having to babysit the 18-year-old all night. I've had enough of this. Here is an 18-year-old. She's your
There's
responsibility
no
now.
never a responsibility to make sure everyone gets home, like because you just work together. Like
Yeah.
obviously, if you see someone actually in danger, you would. But it's also like there's not just it's not weird to go home alone. You would have all been planning to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe it's a similar kind of game to Caught in the Remix, but there's maybe a fact of like maybe it's maybe there's like a larger cast of characters than everyone playing as one, because I feel it is a
Yeah.
fact that like people take exits as they come up. Um, like it's like characters who do very well can suddenly extradite themselves from this situation, which I feel similar to how I wrote Caught in the Remix would just be like this kind of amplified. I feel like here maybe instead of like, oh, the night is like or the venue is like self-conscious, it would more be, I guess, the realization that your work is haunted.
Yeah.
Or like on an
Somehow, like,
extra dimensional rift or something.
yeah, you've
And
got
it's
this
like
hellish boss who is cursed the night out, so you all are going to be terribly
I
sick the next morning.
yeah. This feels, I will say, actually, like an this is gonna sound silly, like an adaptation of a stand-up bit I used to have.
You still got the type 5 in you, honey?
So the whole bit is I said that I had a very weird job. It's the same one with like the guy. I would run through that whole bit like I had some different jokes. I had a joke about how I was warned that like my boss was probably avoiding me because he didn't know what to do with me, which I said was code for he didn't know whether he was supposed to ask me to move a sofa or sexually harass me. And I also said, like, I had a conversation with a coworker, and this is the bit which relates to this game idea we've kind of pitched, where they said, like, well, you know, this job does make more sense once you realize that you're in purgatory. And fuck, it does. That's why, you know, most people only ever stick around for 6 months. But there are some people who seem to have been here their whole lives. Because this also tied into the thing I was warned about the job is that, like, people always got fired. Before they'd worked there for like between 6 months and 2 years, they would fire you because
Before
after
they
2
get
years,
right,
you
yeah.
have employment protection. So that was like also I've messed up some of the order of this joke, which is why I'm needing to seed it. But the punchline to the joke of me saying like, oh yeah, this whole place is purgatory. Obviously, Brian is the devil trying to, you know, test our souls, damn us all to eternal damnation. And that does explain why there was that customer coming in and saying that there was something wrong with me and I was in hell. And wait, damn, that might also been because I was trans. Oh,
Thank
not
you for.
even not more than a titter.
I was trying to remember the name of your old stand-up thing that you have the poster for in your room, and then be like, "Thank you for listening to Kayla Dice's Purgatory" or whatever it is.
Yeah, Kayla McQuarrie Traumatized is the name of that show. But
Oh,
like,
there we
what
go.
I'm saying, I think like, yeah, it turning out you're working in purgatory at a Christmas do with multiple characters who are all trying to make their exits, which will maybe just be an exit from this weird work do, but depending on roles or whatever, maybe they are leaving the purgatory.
Yeah, you escape to a better job, or just the job center, or whatever.
It's a very classic Kayla Dice game about employment where like the winning move is ultimately to get fired.
What does this say about you, Kayla? Let's discuss this in depth.
I mean, I can explain it very easily. It says that because of a mix of mental and physical disabilities, I've always struggled in workplaces and always felt like they were more actively destructive to my well-being than staying in them was. So that's why when I write games about work, it's often the case that like they are more about how work will destroy you. I know what I'm about. Do
Thank you
you?
for listening to Game Soup. Work will destroy us all.
Bye.